Hey, welcome to another installment of Rocket MSP Podcast, the show where we ask the tough questions of vendors. Make sure you like or subscribe. I'm going to start trying to say that from now on. Um, so today I'm excited. I'm joined by Chris Dix from ChatStyle. Chris, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
All right. So let's just dive right in, man. ChatStyle. What is it?
Sure. So it is a software solution to integrate chat fully into your business process. And that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different MSPs. Uh, we try to cover all the bases, but it's a way to make chat work for you instead of be a problem.
Okay. So I know that I've got one colleague who is obsessed with SMS. He wants text for his clients, and I keep trying to tell him that that is stupid. Uh,
You have a
so,
point.
so with that said, I'm a little hesitant on chat because that's just one more way for the client to communicate with me outside of the PSA, right?
Well, that's one of the big problems of chat for MSPs. There are really three, and you just nailed one of them, is that anything that happens is happening outside the PSA, which
Hmm.
is not what you want ever. Um, the other is what flavor of chat are you going to uh, give
Chocolate.
to your customers anyway? Like, there's SMS, there's a web-based kind of widget, there's Teams and Slack as far as business chat application platforms go.
Hmm.
How do you decide what flavor you're going to support? You basically the customer is driving that sort of conversation,
Yeah.
and then the third thing is automation. There's no easy way to automate to scale that kind of thing. People expect a certain level of immediacy in chat, and so uh, opening that door without handling those three problems is just going to create more headaches for you than than if you didn't do it at all. But that's why we try to solve those three problems.
And I'm glad that you brought those up because one of the next things I was going to ask you is, or comment on, and then turn into a question is this. I love the idea of putting like the little chat thing on my website and giving somebody the opportunity to communicate with me and get questions answered and just it's just one less barrier, right?
Right.
But it actually ends up creating more barriers because for really small MSPs or like one man shows, what are the odds that you just happen to be sitting in front of the computer with that chat app open and you hear the ding? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the
And what
and
if you hear two? You know, that's
but my point is that what often ends up happening is we end up creating more barriers because we end up installing this chat tool on our website that we don't check or monitor as well as we're supposed to, and now it's like a day before we get back to somebody, and at that point it could have been an email.
yeah.
And that drives me up a wall, like all these different platforms that I use for web design stuff, when they've got the chat bubble, and then yeah, they're using intercom or one of those platforms, and then it says usually responds within x minutes or x hours. I'm like, what do you mean usually responds in a few hours? That's not chat, that's an email.
That is absolutely an email. You're right. Um,
So how are you helping MSPs overcome the the problem where we can't always be there to chat?
we do it through a couple of different ways. One is we have the ability to customize the questions and answers that you can give to the customer when they come to something like your website.
So we
Uh,
can build out a chat bot.
Yep, you can basically build out a chatbot, or you can more recently leverage some of the OpenAI services to, sort of craft a chatbot that will interact with the customer, get some of that early interaction out of the way, make them feel like they are immediately being responded to, but still get that data in either of these cases into the PSA as a ticket, as a note, however it needs to be captured so that it fits into your normal business process rather than being this thing that's hitting you on the side of the head randomly.
Now, you mentioned using AI. I love AI. I do. It is really fun for me to use. I use it with as much as I possibly can. However, the one thing that I don't think many people realize, it is a language learning model. It is not actual artificial intelligence. Okay, it is not smart enough to know. Um, did you try turning it off and on again? Right.
Right,
It is using artificial intelligence to generate the most probable response to a question or statement. And it I don't know the frequency, but I always see people say, it's not accurate. You're going to get wrong information. And I don't know how accurate it is, okay? For everything that I've used it for, I'm getting like 98% accuracy. Okay. So now I'm not asking it to write crazy scripts or generate CSS code or anything like that, right? I'm just
right,
saying, hey, I'm building a website for a doggy daycare. Help me write some content for it. And then I tweak it because sometimes they'll talk about dog treats when this company doesn't give out free dog treats or it's stuff like that, right?
right,
But so all that to say, I get nervous when I hear of companies say, "Oh, we're implementing Chat GPT or OpenAI or whatever you want to call it into our product," and like everybody's doing it. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're jumping on the OpenAI bandwagon now." So I mean, pretty soon, ConnectWise and Autotask are going to have it built into their products directly, for all I know.
there's probably a good chance that's happening. I would be surprised if it's not. And I have, some of the same concerns you do, and some of the same um, excitement about it. We tried to incorporate it into what we're doing carefully because it does have the capacity to go a little bonkers if you talk to it long enough back and forth. Uh,
Mhm.
and yes, there may be some degree of accuracy issues with. I've done the same kinds of things with testing it against code, against SQL. Like to say, hey, can you tell me how to do this thing? And sometimes it's very accurate, and sometimes it just makes stuff up. And you have to know the difference. We
Mhm.
use it a little more controlled to uh, on the customer facing side. We use it to uh, follow up their initial problem that they're reporting with some reasonable next questions. So the things that your engineer would, the top two or three questions that they probably would have had to ask anyway, like what's the model? Have you seen any error messages? Have you, if they are being too vague, just try to drill down into the details a little bit. Not to recommend solutions, although I think there's some future in which we could do some of that. But for now, just to capture some of that basic information and get it into the ticket as a head start for the engineer.
Okay. So, I one of the things I enjoy doing is using AI to help me generate some of the questions that I ask vendors. Now, I did
Uh-oh.
not do that yet today. Uh, Notice I said yet.
Yet. Yeah, all
Uh,
right.
I'm
Fun.
I'm gonna I'm gonna open up a chat here, and I'm gonna say, "Are you familiar with ChatStyle.ai? Use search results to learn more about it." And It's thinking. Yes, ChatStyle.ai is a business to consumer messaging platform specifically designed for MSPs. Probably, I don't know. I mean, technically, it's right because it's like business to end user, but it is a B2B. But
It is a yeah.
I'm going to interview the CEO,
A CTO, head geek, something like that. So,
the CTO, Chris Dix. I better make this the CTO of ChatStyle.ai, Chris Dix, on my podcast. Generate 20 questions about to help me learn more about his product for MSPs. We'll see what happens.
all right.
See what
It's
happens.
exciting.
So I cheat. I do this type of stuff to help me because sometimes I just need to get the juices flowing. You know.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's really good for that. I mean, like, I'm surprised at the ways in which this ChatGPT OpenAI helps us. You know, I would have always imagined that we would be automating fast food restaurants before we'd be automating uh, soft skills for engineers. You know, like it. But here we are. So
So here we go. I'm not going to ask all 20, but
okay,
I am going
very
to
cool.
start asking you some of the questions. And I'm
Cool.
and I'm going to skip ones that I think are going to generate more like fluff content than like meat and potatoes that MSP want, okay?
All right.
So, what how would you explain chat style to someone unfamiliar with tech or MSPs?
Hmm, okay. Um, so chat style is a way for customers and uh, support to communicate regardless of the chat platforms they want to use or uh, or the ticketing system that they want to use.
Now, how was the idea for chat style conceived and what was the inspiration behind it?
That's a good question. Uh, I am not an MSP. I have worked closely with MSPs for a long time,
Okay.
and I'm a developer by
Mhm.
background, software developer, and so I was always the person they would bring in for special projects. You know, customer has some custom software development, and I'm a full stack developer, so I can help out however they need. And so I hear the same problems over and over again with my friends who are MSPs. You know, difficult to get customers to respond after a ticket, um, customers asking for chat support, but we don't want to do it. And the tools that they did have to use didn't integrate with their PSA. So uh, talking to them, hearing the same problem from 3 or 4 different friends in the channel, maybe start to think there's something there.
Can you walk us through how chat style integrates with ConnectWise and Autotask?
Sure. So what we do is we ask that the MSP set up an API user for one of those 2 platforms. And once you do, when we do the initial setup, you put your API user information into our portal. And then we use the APIs that either ConnectWise or Autotask provide to uh, check on contacts who come. So we try to identify customers when they come to either the website or SMS or Teams or Slack based on what information we get from them. So we use APIs to identify them as contacts. We use APIs to look for existing tickets, open new tickets, add notes to tickets if the user has feedback. Um, so it's those API integrations that are the way we tie into those platforms. We also are building some UI integrations and pods or widgets in the case of the various platforms to let you go the opposite direction as well to get into chat from inside the PSA.
Oh, oh, okay. I got nervous. You froze up.
Oh,
All
sorry.
right. So one of the things I saw on Reddit, and I'm not going to name names, but I did see on Reddit that there is another chat platform for MSPs that recently um, ended up overwriting address line one field for all the customers in their PSA. So that sucks, right?
That for that MSP, that certainly that would suck very much.
And I think it was like a small subset of MSPs that it happened to. So it wasn't like an isolated, oh, it just happened to one MSP. It's like they were editing the code and they screwed something up. Like when Amazon is updating AWS and they forget a semicolon and they take down the entire infrastructure. Kind of like that.
Okay, yeah, like that. Well, well, I can't speak to for other platforms.
what
I
what
know.
I'm what
Yeah,
I'm asking.
go ahead.
So
Sure.
by bringing that up, I'm sorry. So
No.
I don't want to put you in a hard place where I don't want you to talk bad about the other guy. What I want you to
Sure.
do is tell me, how are you preventing something like that from happening with chat style?
Okay, well, that's a fair question. We, uh, for the most part, are readers of information. We don't do much in terms of updates, especially not contacts. Of course, when you set up your API user, those privileges that we ask for are minimal, for what you
Okay.
need it to do. Uh,
What they need is they have the ability to edit companies and contacts because you're able to add a chat widget to the website, like on the global website.
mm,
And then what it'll do is it'll basically create like a prospect or a lead
mhm.
out of somebody that's not a current customer.
And so we have one or two customers that are doing that today. And so for those customers, we do have those privileges, being able to create a new company, new contact. Uh, Other people more typically have a catch-all company that say somebody comes to the website or sends an SMS message and we can't tell who they are. Then if we're going to create a ticket, we fail over to the catch-all company and associate it with that and let the engineer in their follow-up figure out what to do with the information about that we captured from this potential lead. So,
Now, I know of for sure one other platform, Thread. Are there other platforms similar to what you and Thread are doing today?
I think there are a couple. Thread is certainly the biggest one, and I have they're great people at Thread. Really,
Sure.
I've talked to Bobby and some of the other team, um, and they've actually even sent um, prospects my way when things didn't match up, and I intend to do the same for them. It's nice to have competition and know that there's a real market here.
Hmm.
Uh, I know there are some other people doing less chat, more AI in the space, like MSP bots. So similar, there's a whole spectrum of communication and automation and integration that is in this new set of tools that I feel like we're a part of, Thread's a part of, MSP bots is part of. Um, that and I think there's going to be a lot of really working together and cooperation. And there's so many different kinds of MSPs, so many sizes and types and verticals that they're focused on that I think there's going to be a lot of room for people in this space.
So, what do you think differentiates chat style from Thread specifically?
Well, I know that they have their own tool, which we do not. So they can do things inside of their inbox application that we probably can't do because we are focused inside of Teams and Slack for the engineer experience. So
That that helps. So you are purely Slack and Teams for the engineers. You don't have a web portal that they log into and access all the chats.
no, at the moment we don't. Or, some people have asked for that, but really we're trying to. our focus has been from the beginning to connect the tools you're already using in a better way than they're connected today. So if you're using Slack, you like Slack, we felt like as much as we can do to keep you inside of Slack uh, is a bonus, and the same with Teams. Um, so whatever it is that you use as an organization, we want to keep you in there. Partly because we're talking a lot about chat from a customer standpoint, but one thing that I think MSPs, even if you listen to this and you say, sorry, I don't ever want to do customer facing chat, that's fine. But you're probably already doing internal chat that isn't connected to the PSA either.
Hmm.
So one of the things we do is make it possible for just your internal chat to get into the PSA easily. We have one customer who every time a new sales oriented ticket comes in, it gets popped over into Teams, uh, alerts engineers who might be able to help support that sales opportunity, and every bit of the conversation that happens in that channel in Teams winds up in the ticket automatically. There's no customer chat involved, but it's still about capturing the data and getting it into the PSA where it belongs.
Here's here's a fun AI question.
All
Can
right.
you? I lost it. Can you explain more about the omni-channel messaging feature?
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, I'm loving these AI questions. It's great. Um, so, omni-channel to us, to the industry, I think means being able to have a individual come there through a variety of different communication methods and still identify that person.
Hmm.
So what we do is we've built these channels. So whether it's a widget on your website, whether it's an SMS message, Teams, Slack, Ring Central, or adding WhatsApp, business to the channels as well, we can provide the same conversational interface. So if you create this dialogue that you want to give to the customers, you don't have to create it 5 or 6 times. You create it once. We translate it for the messaging platform that the customer came in on, and and then take care of getting it into the PSA for you without you having to worry about it.
You'll like this one. How does ChatStyle handle data privacy and security, especially considering it's a messaging platform?
Hmm, that's a good question. Yeah, so we one of the things we consider ourselves is mostly just a bridge. So by default, we're getting rid of all of the content, expiring all these messages and conversations from our standpoint on a fixed timer after a certain time period has elapsed for each message, each conversation. Uh, we just get rid of them because our job is to make sure that they get into the other tools. So once they get into Teams, once they get into the PSA, um, we sweep them away. Um, Unless you wanted to funnel them to some other sort of data platform, we could do that as well. But and in terms of the data privacy and security where it interacts with the AI specifically, because that is a concern for some people, that's one of the reasons we're using the Azure OpenAI service. It uh, doesn't retain data. It follows better policies in terms of how they use the information that flows through them, whereas just using the general OpenAI ChatGPT interface has certain other issues in terms of training and data retention.
Cool. Uh, this is a Steve question. Speaking of training, um, are you able to utilize the chats to train OpenAI or Azure OpenAI? Uh, what's the right way to say this? Are you able to train it how we communicate with our customers, how we solve uh, uh, issues, create resolutions, that type of stuff, so that way down the road it's able to do more of this automated for us?
We are doing a sort of side project of research into training models along those lines based on data we have been, you know, given permission to do so
Hmm.
from specific customers. So the idea being that that we might be able to build out a more specific LLM to be MSP related, um, based on that sort of history of tickets, of how things were handled. We're not doing that as part of the application, because of reasons like I mentioned about expiring the messages and things like that. But as a side project, we hope to build out that large language model more specifically for MSPs, and then leverage that as part of our AI integration.
What is your strategy for scaling and growing ChatStyle?
Hmm. So we get asked this from time to time with the um, size we are and everything. So we're still relatively small, but we're trying to approach this as an organic, inbound kind of go-to-market strategy, talking to people like yourself, talking to the community, the channel, being on Reddit, being on MSP Geek, and trying to listen and uh, be part of the community. That was one of the reasons, we attended MSP GeekCon earlier this year, just trying to build up the, the MSP community, because uh, there are so many, like you mentioned, like 1 and 2 person shops out there. We're trying to make this a tool that can benefit the majority of MSPs, not just big shops who are having trouble keeping up with their customers, but we want to be there when these smaller MSPs grow, help them grow.
Very cool. So how did I feel like ChatGPT is a woman because she knows everything, right? How did she do?
Uh, Surprisingly well, and didn't it didn't rattle me too much. I was worried we were gonna have like a Skynet moment or something, when have it turn on me, but no, that was pretty solid.
Well, I skipped over the one where she asked if you know John Connor. So
Well, I appreciate that. It could have gotten kind of tense around here. So,
so so down in the bottom there should be a present button. I would
yeah.
love if you could share your screen and just show us chat style and hopefully you've got an example of how it can work with texting and Slack and all that stuff.
Yes. So let me see if I can do this. I'm going to share entire screen. This screen. Let's see.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Cool. So hopefully that's better and less
Mhm.
Hall of Mirrors. Okay. So yeah, so I can give you a quick demo. This is an example of us integrated onto a website. So this is just a demo page. We have a familiar kind of widget that you can integrate into your website. It's just an HTML snippet that you can put onto one page, or you could put it onto the footer of your WordPress site and get it onto every page. And so the widget itself can be customized. You can replace this with your logo, your colors, um, and so when someone new comes to the site, uh, they'll get this pop-up that's sort of an industry standard at this point. HubSpot and all these other CRMs kind of have made it pretty familiar for people. So I'll just walk through an example of, I'm a customer who's looking for support. And like I mentioned before, all of these prompts and questions and flow is configurable, and I can give you a peek behind the curtains at that in a minute. So if you come to us by a channel that is sort of pre-authenticated, so if you come by Teams or Slack where we can get access to your email address, then we don't have to ask you for authentication information, because we can treat that channel as trusted. But if you're just coming to the website, uh, we give a few options on how you can authenticate. So you could put in an email address or phone number, and we can send you a short code that will authenticate you. Or we do Office 365 authentication as well. So you could sign in, and then we would use that email address. And so let me just send myself a quick text. And so that will send me just a short code that I can put into here. At that point, what it's going to do is go back to the platform that we're talking to. In this example, I'm connected to Autotask, and it's going to identify me against the contacts table. And so it did. So I'm in there as CW, and now it's giving prompts to CW. Uh, and again, these prompts are configurable. We can give them the option to, report a new issue, check on an existing one. You could show them a list of their open tickets. Pretty much anything the API can do, and we can craft into a reasonable response. But let me just walk through a reporting a new issue. I say my email broken. And this is an example of where we kick over into the OpenAI service. So this is the Azure OpenAI service trying to come up with some reasonable follow-up questions based on my initial problem. So see, I'm not getting any emails. And what we do is we limit it to a couple of questions because we don't want to give it the opportunity to go a little random. But once it does answer a couple of questions, then it will create a ticket automatically, and that will be over in Autotask. So if I come over here and do a search, then I will have my new ticket based on our chat. And the AI is also responsible for summarizing those questions that that we asked, and it's tied to me as a contact. And we can configure it so it's created with specific status, specific priority, goes to a certain queue. All that's configurable as well.
Very nice.
So that is sort of the customer experience. And then the tech experience in this example is over in Teams. So what we do is we set up a channel where each time one of these chats is created, a new thread and a new adaptive card gets put into the channel. So everyone can get notified inside of Teams that that this new ticket is here, breaks down some information about it, and then we give a few little productivity hacks on the card. You can jump straight to the ticket, jump straight to the contact. You can add a note from inside of Teams or change the status of the ticket. So if I say, oh, now I want it to be in progress, I can do an update status. And we can do a lot of these things automatically as well. So we can make it so that if a engineer takes over a ticket, then it automatically goes into in progress or gets assigned to them. But one of the things we do that I think is pretty neat is this live chat capability. So if I click on this, then what's actually going to happen is we're going to connect to this web session. And then anything I say to the bot in this thread will go over to the customer. Anything they say will get echoed back to
Very
Teams.
nice. That's great.
Thanks. And they can even send in attachments. So if they had a screenshot or some sort of, if they're on their phone, they could take a picture. They might have a log file or something like that, a picture of an error message. And whatever they do comes over into Teams as well. So now if I also say, once the conversation is complete, then the engineer has the capability to end it and turn it back over to the bot. And they can do that in a couple of different ways. They could click a
Hmm.
button, or we could tie it off of the status of the ticket. Um, we could also um, do things like these slash commands. So um, we are able to define um, slash commands like this that that are other productivity hacks for the engineer. So if there's some sort of action that you want to take based on um, multiple API calls, then you could create a new slash command, or we could work with you to create a new slash command that would do a couple of different things, like set the status of the ticket and its priority, and add a note, all in just one or two steps. And so we come over here, then if I refresh the ticket, we'll see the transcript in the uh, ticket. So everything that happened between the technician and the customer gets captured in the PSA where it belongs.
I love that picture you chose of Jeff Goldblum, by the way.
He's a lovely man, isn't he?
He really is.
Yeah.
He's what, like 70 years old, right?
Yeah, it does not look it though. Wow. Like,
He
I mean,
really
it's,
doesn't. And he's
yeah.
got a wife that's like half his age.
Wow. Okay.
So
Um, so this is a quick peek behind the scenes too. This is where we are able to do some customization on the dialogue that you see. So um, in this example, for instance, this is one of the customers who wants to allow the contact people who come to the site who aren't contacts to enter information about their company and themselves, to create a new company record and a new contact record. But we also, as part of that, are asking a couple of questions to vet them as far as how good they might be as a potential customer. So how many endpoints, how many servers do they have? Do they have servers? And that will help decide whether it needs to be brought to the immediate attention of somebody in Teams, or whether it can wait till tomorrow, sort of thing. Um, and so we're able to define the chat dialogue this way, and then um, inside the commands, we're also able to, like I mentioned, create these sort of programmable slash commands. So we can write scripts around the API that will do things like this is the assign command. So you can assign a ticket to someone directly from in Teams just with the assign command and an at syntax. Uh, so trying to build out things not just to make customer and engineer chat more workable, but to make the engineer to engineer chat more productive for the PSA.
I gotta say, this is cool. And I'd say this is a huge differentiator between your product and other products.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we one of the things we wanted to do when we first started building it is, um, although it's focused on MSPs, we feel like it's got the potential to be useful for uh, once the technology has been proven to the MSPs themselves. I think it's got potential for their customers as well, because the problems that we're talking about from uh, the standpoint of chat and systems of record and all, uh, these aren't just MSP problems. They're just business problems, really. And so everyone's using business chat applications. Everyone's got a system of record. Everyone needs uh, some way to tie all those things together. And so we're hoping, 3-4 years down the road, that we're working with MSPs to build out some additional uh, bots inside of this framework for specific verticals that make sense for their customers.
I, I'm impressed. I like what I see on your software here, man.
Hey,
This is
thanks.
really
I
cool.
I really appreciate that. That's you know, we of course we do it partly for the money, but the rest of it is for comments like that from you, from people like yourself. So much
Very
appreciated.
cool. So do you have a trial or anything for?
Yeah, so well, what we do is once you get things hooked up, it kicks off a 7-day trial, but that's just so that neither of us dilly-dally about trying to get it running. We can extend that while we work some things out. Most MSPs need some level of customization in this area before they feel like uh, they want to just throw it out there to their customers. Um,
Sure.
so, and given that, one of the things we do is from a web channel standpoint, uh, when you first make the connection and get your PSA and your chat connected, we automatically generate a publicly available test page so that you don't have to put it on your website to try it out. Uh, you can just use the generated test page, hand it off even maybe to one or two trusted customers, or use your engineers to test it out, and make sure you're comfortable with how it behaves before making it real for your customers.
All right. What else should I know?
Let's see. Just real quick I mentioned you can customize this. Here's an example. You can change the colors, change the logo. That's just for the web widget, but we can also do private labeled bots in terms of other platforms. So like in this example, we this is us inside of Slack with a private labeled version that's MSP specific. So if you want to do something like a Slack or Teams bot for your customers, we can set you up with your logo and your name so that when they're inside of Teams or Slack, they're comfortable knowing. They might be like, oh, what's ChatStyle? I don't know what that is, but I know Strict Support is my IT provider, and can feel comfortable going through that and reporting an issue.
Awesome.
Um,
What's it cost?
oh, that's always a good question. I feel like we've tried to keep the small MSPs in mind with that. So one of the things we do is we charge by channel, and when I say channel, I mean ways you can talk. So um, in this scenario, um, we do one customer facing channel and one internal for $100 a month. So if you want to put in your website and your texts are in Teams, that's $100 a month. If you also wanted to support your customers with SMS and in their Slack environments, well, that's two more channels. And the way we do SMS is by doing either Twilio or FlowRoute for
Hmm.
that. So you set up an API account with them, put in the credentials the same way you do your Autotask or ConnectWise credentials. And so there is a separate cost to an MSP who wants to support SMS, but but I think we do handle that pretty well, and those two providers are reasonable. Um,
Yeah. And then is it so if I've got customer A, B, and C all using Slack, and I
mhm.
want them each to be able to communicate with me through their Slack, is that one channel or is that three channels?
That is one channel, unless you come to us with a gigantic customer. Uh, you know, we try to be reasonable about it. Usually, we do blocks of customers in Slack or Teams so that you don't have to do um, this one per channel kind of setup. Uh, Typically, we've done just work with the MSP and be reasonable about volume. I don't think we've had anybody who needed more than one channel at this point to do up to 10, 20 uh, tenants or workspaces.
So I'm still computing it all. Sorry.
Oh no.
One of the things that I was really impressed by Thread
Hmm.
is they've got AI helping the technician um, in the sense that it'll help generate like time entries based on the chat. do you have anything like that, or is anything like that in the works?
Yeah, time entry is in the works. In general, we do have AI support for the bot inside of Teams or Slack for the engineers. So one of the things we do is if we enable the AI for engineers, and it's optional, you can restrict it to just using the slash commands and buttons and things like that. But if we do enable the AI for engineers, then they're able to communicate with it as if they were just talking to ChatGPT. So they can actually ask it questions about scripts, about SQL, about the PSA. So one of the things we're beta testing right now is being able to have you communicate with um, the bot and ask it questions about the PSA content. So if I come up here, can say, we don't want to do something like that for customers, but we can trust engineers to ask reasonable questions and get reasonable responses. So we're not restricting. Well, I say we're not restricting. We're restricting the questions an engineer can ask ChatGPT through us to technical issues. We don't want it to just ask for a bunch of poetry or
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But you can also say things like find a contact. So one of the things that I think is underused about Chat GPT and OpenAI is the ability to use it as a natural language processor. So because we sit in between the engineer, the PSA, and the AI, we can combine things like the question the engineer asked with results from the PSA and turn it into a response that that makes sense in a chat response. So this is an example of us actually doing a search for a contact by their last name in Autotask using natural language.
That's really cool. All right. I mean, I'm sold.
Hey, I appreciate that. It's it's we're living in very exciting times with this stuff, and we feel fortunate to be in the position we're in to take advantage of some of these recent developments.
I agree with that. Uh, for people that are listening, watching, you can go to www.chatstyle.ai, ChatStyle.ai, to learn more, to get signed up, to just be like Fry and say, "Shut up and take my money." You know what? Whatever works for you. Go to that website and do the thing. Chris, this was awesome, man.
Hey, I had a great time. It's nice to get to hang out with, as you mentioned before the meeting. It's nice to get to hang out with an adult for a little bit and have a conversation, and especially about one of my favorite topics like this. I really appreciate the opportunity from you to reach your audience and to get the word out about us. We're excited about it.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and for being a guest. And for those of you listening, I'll catch you at the next episode.
Awesome.
Take care, everybody.